Hello everybody, welcome back to Cinema Savvy. It is myself, George, bringing a brand new review, and today I'm going to be talking about Happy Gilmore 2, which has just released on Netflix around the world and is now available to be streamed. And this is going to be an interesting one to talk about because I don't think Happy Gilmore has ever been spoken about on this channel before. Comedies I always find are very difficult to review. They are of course subjective as to your taste, what you find funny and what you do not. But of course this is a legacy sequel which has come out just under 30 years after the original, which is kind of crazy to think about. And I'm going to be giving some thoughts on the original and the new one naturally. So as always, I do want to hear from people at home. Please do comment your thoughts on this. I'm not going to do spoilers, but I'm going to talk about the official plot, and I haven't actually seen any trailers for this film, so I don't know what was included in the trailers and what wasn't, what audiences were braced for and what they weren't, because I think this may be quite controversial to an extent, or maybe my opinions. I know that there were no reviews made possible before the film came out. There were no screeners sent out worldwide, I believe, so there isn't a Rotten Tomatoes score. There's not a journalist I could look at reviews for. I am doing this after having watched it on Netflix today. So it's pretty fresh in my mind as I get this review out. And it was directed by Carl Newachak, a director who I have not seen anything from regards to his direction. Film-wise, TV-wise, he worked on... God, have I forgotten the name? What We Do in the Shadows, which is one of my favourite comedies of the last 10 years. An incredible series. Love a mockumentary. So I'm familiar with his TV work, but not his film work, of course, starring Adam Sandler in this role too. So let's talk Happy Gilmore. I'm going to talk about the original one first, because it is a comedy classic, and I'm very much in that vein where I do like a lot of Adam Sandler's comedies. Not all of them. I'm in a minority that always enjoyed Grown Ups when it came out. I was 14, and I've not revisited it in about 10 years, but like any comedian, I like a lot of their films, and there's some I don't like, some I've probably not seen. But Adam Sandler was one growing up where I always liked his stuff, and I really like him as an actor. I like it when he does his dramatic roles, but naturally he does do a lot of non-drama roles, more comedies. Again, some that work, some that don't. So when they announced the second Happy Gilmore film, I wasn't really sure. Comedy sequels haven't worked that well for me, particularly the ones with the lengthy gaps in between. I still might watch Dumb and Dumber 2 on principle. I didn't mind Zoolander 2 from memory, but obviously it was not a scratch on the original, and Happy Gilmore was one of them where I know it had been spoken about before, and I guess it eventually happened. But as a big fan of the first film, I was curious to an extent. I'm not a fan of golf, so I don't exactly, have the golf references in mind, but I always enjoyed that first one. It's one of those sort of comedies when it pops up on TV, you're flicking through channels, you do sort of sit there and watch a couple of scenes or finish the film off. So I've got a lot of fond memories with this one. And heading into my thoughts on the sequel, I was gobsmacked about 3 minutes in when his wife is killed off. Spoiler alert. I didn't know that was going to be part of this, and I think that sort of set my tone for what I thought of the film and moving past that point. And again, I do not know if that's been in the marketing or not. So yeah, it's in the opening, and I guess I get to talk about the story of this film. Is essentially how everything was hunky-dory in 96 onwards, and then tragedy struck as he wanted to retire from golf, settle down with his family. He has 5 kids. His wife persuades him to continue with it, and he accidentally kills her during a game of golf, and that sets him on a downward spiral. As an understatement, he eventually loses his nan's house, he eventually loses everything, which puts him in a position where he needs to make money to get his daughter through college, and thus golf returns. That's the core plot there. And I'm not going to go past that with regards to tournament, other characters in respect of what they're up to. I'll go through some of the protagonists and antagonists, but it's quite heavy. I didn't expect this from Happy Gilmore. Killing off Julie Bowen, who I know there's cameos in this role. I did wonder, has she retired from acting? Nope, she's still active in a lot of things. Did she not want to be involved? No, because she's still in this film. It seems like a conscious story decision, and I didn't particularly enjoy that as a fan of the original, as a viewer. I'm not one of them that just cries about legacy sequels that, they've made their lives dour and depressing. But this one actually kind of stung a little bit. And it goes back to the roots of, did there need to be a second Happy Gilmore film? Did this need a sequel 30 years later? I'm really not sure off the opening. I really like the idea that he has lost everything and he must return to golf when he doesn't want to. But the emotional side of it, that it killed his wife and he's got to overcome that hurdle, it's just not there because you're watching a Happy Gilmore film. And I think that's where I'm a little bit lost compared to maybe some others. And also, I'm not here to take a Happy Gilmore film super seriously, but I am sort of sat there looking at the existence of it thinking, okay, is this something that should have been made or not? And I know that shouldn't really be a question for films, but I think when you've got something with a legacy, it can make it a little bit more difficult to do that sometimes. And I would have liked to return to this world to see what he's up to 30 years later, see Stuart McGavin, see other characters who might crop up, what new golfers are there. I don't mind that in sequels, but it just felt very strange that this was the core story choice for this one, and it just left me feeling a little bit sour tasted. And that's kind of where the film goes respectively of story. As you can tell, it's going to be the traditional story of, person gets back into what they did, they've got to overcome emotional hurdles, and how it's going to go on to win or be part of a tournament, to financially be free, to set them on their journey. It's very predictable, and I don't mind predictable. Predictable works for comedies. The real thing I have with a comedy is the film funny? And I'm a bit torn, because I think Mark Commode's always had the best comedy mindset of, if it makes you laugh 5 times, it succeeded as a comedy. I think I laughed twice. I didn't dislike what I was watching, but I also didn't think it was very funny. And I don't look at Happy Gilmore as just a product of its time from the 90s. I still think Happy Gilmore is funny, as an adult. Maybe if I watched it for the first time as an adult, it might have been different. But this second one, it just didn't feel like anything I enjoyed from that. And whilst it is being a legacy sequel, it's of course going to regurgitate and bring up people from the past. Many of them we've lost in real life. Carl Weathers, Richard Keel, 2 names for example, and we do get legacies of having their children appear in this, as in canonical character children, not the actor's sons. And I quite liked one of them, served an interesting purpose, and there was some funny gags to have with them, but it just didn't feel strong enough as a story or as a sequel. And even the golf side of it, someone that doesn't like golf, it then suddenly has all the real professional golfers in acting roles in it, which I only knew Rory McIlroy. Safe to say acting isn't on his strong side. Plenty of other cameos from other sports people. Travis Kelce appears in it. There's a lot of wrestlers in it. MJF plays one of his sons, which I liked, but he doesn't have a lot to do. Becky Lynch is in this film, who I liked from the little bits we get of her, and she worked as a character, but again, it just sort of felt like, okay, cool, Becky Lynch is here, and it goes just sort of cameo hunting a bit too far over the top. We get Ben Stiller return as Hal, which was obviously known in advance. I'm going to assume it was on trailers, but there was set videos that was going everywhere when they were filming it, and I quite like seeing him return and see what he's up to a couple of decades later, still being as sort of evil as he was before. So there's some stuff I really enjoyed and liked, but overall I was just a bit hollow with it. I didn't find it as funny as I wanted it to have been funny. Maybe it's going to be funnier for others. I don't think this is a terrible film either, by the way. I don't think this is a bad film. I don't think this is an abysmal comedy sequel. At the same time as that, I do not think this is a good sequel. I do not think this is a great comedy. It's just very average, playing the road, which is always disappointing with comedies. You tend to be left on one side or the other with them, and I think this exists fine in the middle of the both of them. But I think when you've got the setup before of that first film and the characters in there and how funny that film was, and that in fact you cared for them, I think this film has a real problem by killing off his character, his wife, in the opening scene. And I think that sort of makes or breaks the film for me as a viewer, for me as a fan. I think it may to others, because their relationship was such a big part of that. I just didn't have that connection and gravitas to his family that would then obviously appear in this film and be a core central part. I think they could have and should have found a way to have Julie Bowen involved a lot more, and I think this would have been a completely different film. I really did like having Christopher McDonald back as Stuart McGavin. I liked his character, the journey he went on and what he's been up to, and it was those sorts of things that worked. But I think bar him and Ben Stiller, I don't think I was satisfied by any of the other older or returning ones. So that's kind of how I feel with this. It's a little bit shorter review compared to normal. As I said before, comedies can be very difficult to review at times, to talk about. I'm going to be curious on what people think of this one. Obviously, it's released today. We've also got Fantastic Four out in America today. I think there'll be a lot of people watching one of those at the cinema. I do think this could maybe be a big hit on Netflix. I think a lot of people will go and see this, but I also think a lot of people, because it's all over Netflix now, might just turn it off after a while and just go back and watch the first film. I kind of want to watch the first film, but that doesn't mean that this delivered. So that is me sort of summarising my thoughts, ending my thoughts on this film, Happy Gilmore 2. Do I recommend it? Not massively. If you're a fan of the original, maybe put it on, see what you think, but I can't sit here going and say, wow, what a great comedy sequel. And you can do great comedy sequels, and you can do great remakes of comedies. Hopefully Naked Gun next week is a good one, but it's a very tricky genre to do right, and unfortunately I don't think it's delivered on this one. But no doubt this will be very popular and successful for Netflix's own data goals rather than filmmaking ability. So that is me rounding out. I hope you enjoyed this review. We're going to be live on Sunday with a big spoiler discussion on the Fantastic Four First Steps. steps. Then, as I mentioned, we've got Naked Gun next week. We've still got some new releases to come and keep doing, and we're starting to gear towards the second half of the year, putting a break on blockbuster season. So that is me rounding out. I hope you enjoy. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.